Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and this past weekend was the first competitive weekend for the FB06 meta for the Fusion World card game, and there are two large events. There was the Paris Regionals, which we do have the top 8 deck list for. There also was a large event in Japan, which I don't have all of the data for, but I do kind of want to go over the data that I currently have as well. So if you guys know any other deck lists from that event, please let me know. I'd love to add them to the website, and I'm looking forward to just kind of going over what the meta looks like for the Fusion World card game right now. So a couple things. First, if you guys are new, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe. We do a lot of Fusion World content, and we do want to keep doing it, so let me know that you want some more. And then also, if you guys want to look at any of the deck lists or any other data, you can find it on my website, Eggman Events, which is linked in the description. It's the one behind me. It's got all the deck lists here, and I've been doing my best to make it the best resource that we can for this FB06 meta as well. So jumping on into it, again, we do have one event here. This is the PEC Occitanias. I'm never going to say this correct. It's their Paris Regional. So it was 121 players, 7 rounds of Swiss best of 1, and top 8 were 3 FB03 Goku, 2 Majin Buu Evil, and then singles of Yellow Vegeta, Baby Vegeta, as well as the Sun Goku, or sorry, the Vegeta Mini. So those are the kind of 3 that we have there. And then also we do have the event that was in Japan. I don't have the full deck list. If you guys want to see the deck list that I have, they're in this tournament and God rank deck list table right here. There is a good amount of deck lists too, and I don't want to be like reductive when I say this, but we've got 5 deck lists, right? I was able to find first and second place. I was able to find a couple Majin Buus, so 2 top 8s and a top 16 one off of it. But like we missed all the boring deck lists, right? I promise I've been doing my best to try to look for them, see if anyone who played it posted about it. But as far as I know, they just keep the spice to themselves. So real unfortunate that, you know, of the 3 deck lists we got, they were the Goku, the Majin Buu, and the Vegeta. I know a lot of people would want to see the other deck lists to see what they look like, and if I do find that data, I'll make sure to get it as well. So I do know that Broly BR was, I believe, in top 4. It was live streamed as well, but unfortunately I just don't have anything besides this kind of graphic, as well as just the list that we already have. So unfortunately not the deck list I know a lot of you guys are interested in, so I do apologize. And if that does change, I'll make sure to update on the website. But just looking at this too, like we do kind of see just what a lot of people are mildly afraid of, including myself, which is just that the Goku and Majin Buu Evil, they're just the best decks in the format still, right? They're just still very strong. They're very present. There's not a lot of changes they have to do. And they're just in a really good spot for this meta in general, right? I will say that the third deck list kind of approaching them is the Vegeta Mini, right? That deck did also get a top finish here. It got first place in Japan, and then also a top 8 in Paris as well. So I think the deck is strong, and we're going to go over it in a minute too. But it really is just kind of like the epitome of like what's the best blue deck right now, right? It's got just some really good cards that kind of pushed it to be a viable deck due to the promo, as well as the card from the set, the rare from the set too. So honestly, it's really just like they said, hey, this leader was really bad, let's give it 2 good cards and see what happens. And what happens is that it can kind of contend with the rest of the meta too. So we are going to go over the deck list if you guys want. Again, if you want any of these, you can find them on my website and you can check it out. But let's just jump on into it. So first place, we do have Kecho from their finish from the Bandai Tokyo Wave 1 Championship Series. So we do have this deck list here. We also do have the top 8 one here from Paris. So this is Wolvi's version of the list here. So I also know that Wolvi, I believe he had a game 1 loss going into top 8 because there was a deck list error. It said that he had 4 of these Trunks Youth when he was only playing 3. So I do think that was a small negative for him trying to get farther into the top 8 as well. But generally speaking, like this deck, just having the removal, right? When this was printed back in October, right? The 1 energy activate main to bottom deck a 1 or less was pretty specific and not super great, right? You were using 1 of your energy to get rid of something that they also paid 1 energy for, right? But now that we've got the addition of this 5-drop, this card is so good. If your leader is Vegeta Mini Daima, draw 3 cards and choose 1 battle card in your opponent's battle area, reduces cost by 5 for the turn. So this being able to reduce anything into a 6 cost down to a 1 cost and get removal is really impactful. You also notice that we aren't playing in this list the promo, right? So we do have like this Vegeta Mini promo that as far as I know, maybe I'm wrong, as far as I know, Japan should have this just as accessible as we do, right? This is a promo from the start of FB06 for our like pre-release events, right? Being able to use this to reduce something by 3 for the turn on play, and then also bottom decking a 1 or less just on attack. This is pretty strong, but it looks like we are more so saying, you know what, the removal from Son Gohan Adolescence is just a little bit better. The fact that we are able to get rid of 2 things, I think, is what's really impactful for it. This deck, unlike a lot of other blue decks, though, does have a bit of an issue staying at 7 or less cards just because of the amount of card draw we do have from the Vegeta Mini. So I do think that's impactful. You also see that we're not playing any copies of like the Absolute Lightning, which I think most decks would be playing specifically to try to get rid of Broly BR cards and the like, right? We also do see the copies of the Vegeta. This just being able to add a 3 cost specifically from your trash to your hand is just really great. So being able to play this to get back your Absolute Lightning is good. We also do have another Piccolo. This is just because it's a 10 cost or 10k combo that we can get off of the Vegeta. So being able to use this, it also can like represent a card draw every once in a while. We also are a 3-drop Vegito, so that's helpful for us there too. And then our top end, right? We do have like Zeno, Vegito. We have Vegeta Daima. Being able to draw a card and go for game is strong. I do also like the new Secret Rare Son Goku Childhood, right? This card I felt like when I'm like, oh, it's really good in the deck that it's supposed to be in, but I don't know how splashable it is outside of it. But when every blue deck is still playing Final Hope Slash, right? Being able to say, oh, you know what, for 1 extra energy, this becomes a 75k double strike. That is pretty absurd, right? That does become very scary very quickly. So I do think that is worth, if you're already playing 1-drop events, which we are. We also are playing 1 copy of the Scissors Paper Rock, right? If you were going for game, right? This is plus 50k, draw 2 cards to your Son Goku Childhood, so that could be a really good winner for you there. We also do have the Goku Black, so this being able to play a 4 or less from your drop to your hand is great. I do think that it's very surprising to play this card without playing the Vegeta Mini Dimer, because I would say that's the card you play off of it, but we also do get that from the Son Gohan Adolescence, so that is the combos you can get from that. I do also like this 2-drop Trunks Future, so this is from FB03. Activate main, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards that cost 2 or less, place at the bottom of its owner's deck, then place this card at the bottom of his owner's deck. So that just means like you get some like removal then maybe that you weren't supposed to are expecting. So I do like that little additional removal aspect for it. And then the Beerus. So you get to KO one of your battle cards, just choose anything and bounce it back to its owner's hand. So you can just do something if you're playing against the 8-drop role, you play Trunks Youth, and then you play Beerus, and then you bounce that back to your hand by getting rid of the Trunks Youth. So I think that's still kind of fine for removal. It is a little bit costlier and it's a little bit more expensive, and it's not absolute removal because it bounces back to hand, but I do think that can be helpful in its own way. So just some really unique builds, right? It's cool to see that 2 different builds are they have the good cards together, but they're just going in kind of different directions, and really cool to see what these are going to look like in the next couple weeks. But these are Kecho's and Wolvi's builds of Vegeta Mini, and congratulations for their finishes there. Next up, we've got the FB03 Son Goku. So we got LeoBacca's win from the Paris regionals, as well as the runner-up for the Tokyo championship wave. So this is NJ's version of it. And I don't know what I can say about this deck anymore, right? It's very clear that this deck is still, after 3 sets, right? FB04 came out, we were able to get this 1-drop Videl, great. And now it's just been like consistently this deck has been very, very strong, right? I do like the fact that it is a very cheap deck to make, right? If you're trying to figure out how this game works, you can have a really approachable way to do so. But it's been 3 metas, and we are still just saying, you know what, this deck is the best one in the meta. And personally, like, this is a personal issue too, but like, I'm good. I'm done with this deck. And I think part of it is just like, yes, it's very strong, but just the way that like the games grind out just takes forever. It's not very fun to play against. You just kind of watch your opponent play a bunch of 1-drops every turn, and it just really adds up, especially if you're on the online client. So we do have like one minor add, right? We are playing the Son Goku Childhood, right? Because again, we are playing the Final Hope Slash in most of these builds. So again, it's a really good game ender. If your opponent ever goes down to 2, you can just kind of go for game. Zeno is just kind of like a little bit of an add in case we find Broly and we need to get rid of it. But this deck just has such great ways to apply pressure, not overcommit to your energy. You're just playing a bunch of 1-drops, right? And then being able to just draw a lot of cards. Half your deck is searchable off like 2-drop Videl to put it back into your hand, and it just never ends. The deck just never really runs out of steam, and can just apply pressure, right? It's just like eventually wins because your opponent has to run out of things to play a lot of the time. So I don't have much more to say. I know a lot of people are hoping this deck gets hit in the near future, I'm included. And originally I said that, maybe just peel off is enough, but I'm just looking at like Sharpmare is still like a really like overpowered card, I think, in this deck. I think You Prefer Girls with Short Hair has been kind of run its course as well. And just even Great Saiyaman, the fact that you can say, you know what, I can just like draw 4 cards and then like play Great Saiyaman to just get rid of everything, any threat on the board within reason. It's just crazy, especially since this is a recyclable card you can find later in the game off of either 1-drop peel off or your Videl 2. So generally speaking, I think this deck is running just a lot of overtuned cards. There's just it's pretty clear to me why this deck is doing so well right now and continues to be for over 6 months just doing well without really any major card design changes or any adds to the deck outside of the occasional just like better finisher, but like it's still just the core is pretty disgusting. So not much more to say, but there it is there. But honestly, I will say like you can't just stroll into the event and win with this deck. It does take skill to play it, so I don't want to try to take away from our players, but I do think that I would like to see some change with this deck being either a little bit worse or just kind of letting some other decks kind of take up the same space too. But anyways, we got LeoBacca and NJ. Congratulations for their finishes with Son Goku. Then next up we've got Majin Buu, and I got 3 different builds. This deck does have like a really strong core, but there are like a lot of like good yellow tech cards, right? Are we playing the 4-drop Frieza? Is this necessary for the deck? Sometimes we do need it, especially if we're playing in something like Jiren, right? But it's not needed in every deck, right? We have like some more aggressive builds here, just really low to the ground and just trying to go for game with it. And then we also do have kind of like, I think we have like 2 like the middling builds where, Secret Rare Frieza I think is a card to kind of see what their idea is, right? I have been seeing some kind of weirder builds too, trying to get value from a couple of the new yellow cards. Even playing like 6-drop Golden Frieza I don't think is like an issue for the deck if you want to try to play even more control-y too. But generally speaking, I think this deck has so much hand destruction and access where a lot of decks don't really have protection or ways to go around it. I do think that the Majin Buu Kid into Majin Buu Kid off of Babidi is still just like the best finishing combo in the game, right? It just makes it so your opponent, if your opponent goes down to 3 energy and 3 life and like 7 cards in hand, it just wins. It just wins almost every time. You just have to do the right numbers, and then you go for game and your opponent loses, right? So I know, I personally think the deck that I want hit the most is FB03 Goku, but I know a lot of people are hoping that this deck gets hit a little bit as well. I know the easy card to say is like, oh, this Babidi is too good. It plays off bodies from your hand, right? But I also think like it's kind of necessary to be able to activate your effects at the same time. So I'm a little bit less inclined for that. Honestly, I think the card that's a little bit overtuned in my mind is the Majin Buu Kid. I think I've mentioned this one before. This card is just a little bit too strong for what it is. Being able to just like being able to restand it is just such a non-cost, right? That you can just easily play a 1-drop cantrip with Hercule Sorbet, right? A lot of people are playing a lot of these just 8 to 12 copies of draw cards just to be able to consistently see your pieces more. This card being unsearchable means that you do want to try to find it as soon as possible, as easily as possible. So just drawing one lets you try to get there. And I think a lot of people are going to say this deck is still overtuned. It just has a lot of pressure. There's no real downside to playing this deck too, because you do get the hand destruction. You are able to apply a lot of weird pressure, and then once you're awakened, right, like you just get so much additional pressure by getting that extra 20k swing every turn too. So I don't really have any real other thoughts from there, right? So I don't know. I would want this deck adjusted a little bit. I do think that there are some bad matches for it. I think like Jiren's been kind of good for keeping it in check as well, but it's just a deck that I think is still overtuned, and I know a lot of people have a hard time playing against it as well. So here's the build here. Congratulations though to all of our Majin Buu players from this past weekend. And then we've got some interesting builds to kind of end it out. So we've got Unseenbush with their version of Baby Vegeta, and this is a very kind of aggressive build, right? I think traditionally the deck of like the builds of Baby Vegeta that have gone the most success are more of like the pretty much like Son Goku GT, right? You just kind of get the value plays. You try to grind as much value out, and then you just eventually win off like a Bardock or something. But this is definitely like a more of a like low to the ground aggressive build, which I think is really, really interesting. It's running the Machine Mutant cycle, so we got General Rildo being able to combo this from the board to be able to get into your Hyper Meta Rildo, and then doing the same thing, you get to play the you get to play the Meta Rildo 4-drop here. So I think all that stuff is really great. If your opponent's not expecting a faster build. You can get a lot of advantage from it. I do think this one drop Chi-Chi Childhood is a silly great card for this deck and many others, but being able to essentially be a one drop 20k that if you don't have the energy for it, it's a 10k. The fact that it helps you self-awaken early to help you get your leader effect is great. Even like going for game, right? On the last turn, if your opponent left you at 2, being able to play this for 1 to be able to take the life, and then you get rewarded for it, right? To most of the time, like if you have to pay a card to, take cards from your life, you are using it to, you have to use your energy a little bit inefficiently to do so. Chi-Chi is just like, great, well, you get to draw a card and then you get a combo 10k. So it kind of draws you 2 cards for 1 in the late game, which is really, really, really helpful for getting that extra advantage, since this deck does kind of run out of steam at times. But it's really interesting to see this build. I think that this could be viable in its own way, especially if your opponents are not, expecting or respecting the power of like just a bunch of 20 and 25k plus attacks for the entire turn, and it can be very aggressive as well. So not much more to say, but it's really cool to see this build do well, and congratulations to Unseenbush for their finish with the baby Vegeta. The next up we've got the yellow Vegeta. So this is the end of the top 8 for us, but this is a deck that I was, I ran my own event in this past week with a good amount of players, and we got Vegeta first place for that event. So, a lot of people are on this deck. I think the biggest reason to play this is literally this 1 cost extra card, right? We've been waiting for a card that says draw 1 that we can use with our energy on our opponent's turn, and this card definitely does it. So the fact that we also just have so many like great extra cards that exist right now that your opponent's going to have a hard time playing around all of them, right? We have Time Rewound, being able to restand one of our 1-drops, right? We also do have the Energy Absorption. We've got Blue Power Awakening, being able to either just be a defensive plus 25k or gets rid of a 6 or more, which there are a lot of those existing right now in this format. We also do have the Hell Rakshasa. We just get to switch anything to rest mode, so that being able to really be helpful, even against like Broly. If they play something off their leader effect, you use this and then they just can't attack for the turn, which is really, really strong. And then like the final explosion. So we are just a bit of a toolbox deck. We do have the issue that we don't have that many like 10Ks, right? Our only actual 10Ks in the deck are Frieza and Goku outside of our super combo. We have a lot of like the Friezas are both very good, but they don't have combos, so we do have to be kind of careful about that. And we do have like a couple cantrips with the Piccolo Mini Daima, the Hercule, and the Bulma. This being able to get any 2 or less from our drop is really strong, so I do think that helps with the cycling for the deck too. But sometimes this deck can be susceptible to a lot of attacks if you are very bricky, but at the same time it's very good at like controlling a lot of the board and being very defensive too. So it just makes it so if your opponent has like the idea of like 1 or 2 big attacks every turn, this is really good at getting out of those. So we also do have the Vegeta Mini Daima. This is from FB06, or sorry, FS08. It's the super rare from the Star deck. So activate main, choose one of your Resmo Battle cards, or sorry, choose up to 1 Resmo Battle card at the cost of 4 or less in your opponent's battle area and KO, and you can switch this to active. So 2 30k swings is great. Being able to get rid of something is great, and I think this in general is a really strong build for the deck. So not much more to say, but congratulations to Light for their finish with Vegeta. And then real quick, I do want to say big shout outs to IceLoom. He did make a video going over his deck, so you can check that out. It's going to be way better than anything that I can say for it, but was able to get a 10th place finish with this build for the Paris Regional. Unfortunately bubbling out of the top 8, but still a really good performance in general. So generally speaking, I think this is just kind of a standardish build of Aandroidd 17. I wouldn't say this is like the shotgun version of it, right? We don't have any of our 1-drop life takers, right? And we're only playing 1 copy of the 7-drop Goku, right? But the fact that this deck can just play Broly BR, be the first, like the easiest deck to ramp into it, this being a 55k double strike that also heals 1 and clears boards that aren't Halo Coup boards, is just really good, since it doesn't hit 1-drops, right? So I think that this has a lot of chance in this meta right now. We have a lot of ways to just kind of ramp into our energy to 8 or 9 very quickly, and then we do have our defensive tools, right? Like Insta Kamehameha, we have Earth Destroying Blow as well. And I honestly, as long as this card exists, I don't think Aandroidd 17 and 18 is just never, it's never the worst deck in the format, right? It just kind of makes it the de facto green ramp deck because this is such a good card for helping you get to higher energy costs naturally. And because of that, a lot of decks just can't keep up with the amount of energy you get from it. So I think this is really cool to see him still do really well with this deck. I know he's been on it for a while. He's been rotating through a couple others, but it's a real cool finish. And again, make sure to watch his video. He's going to go over this a lot better than I. But congratulations, IceLoom, for their finish there in Paris. So that's going to be it for this one, though. Again, I know just kind of a little bit surface level, but I do think this meta does have some cool decks. I do think it has some other decks that are less cool, in my own opinion. But it's been fun to see what this kind of meta has been developing already, and I'm looking forward to the regional that we have here in North America in Niagara, so that should be really fun to see what the results are for that. So that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and we'll catch you all next time.
Damn it. Damn it.